I've been talking this whole time and I've been muted, I think. I don't know. That's great. Bye. I want us to wait a couple minutes before to make sure we have the right people on the line. I know Tim Sinclair wanted to give a readout about testing commons, and it's unclear to me whether or not somebody from GitHub wants to show up to talk about rate limiting stuff. And I linked the agenda in the chat if anybody wants to mark themselves as attending this meeting.
Hi, testing.
Hey Gwen, I'm going to give us 2 more minutes to wait for and see if Tim wants to show up. Get started.
Per your kindness, could we edit the Zoom link? The Zoom link in the calendar invite seems broken. Maybe it's just me, but it thinks it's a Maps link. And it's also the wrong Zoom ID, even if you if you go to the agenda, then yes, it's the correct Zoom, but every time I try to, I go to the wrong Zoom meeting.
Do you maybe have a copy of the meeting or something? I'm looking at the...
Let me check. Ooh. Hang on. That might be it. Yep, I do. My bad.
Okay. Yeah, I was comparing against the copy that's in the Kate's contributor calendar, and it looks like it's the right thing.
Yep. Yep.
We're bright people. Software is easy. Calendars are hard.
Funny. Huh.
Well, it is now 1:05 p.m., so I'll go ahead and get started. So, hi everybody. Today is Tuesday, May 7th. I am Aaron of SIG. You are at the Kubernetes SIG Testing weekly meeting. You are all adhering to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct by not being jerks, and you can go watch yourselves do so later because this meeting is being publicly recorded and will be posted to YouTube. First up on the agenda, Gwen, I guess, had talked to us offline in email about testing a new rate limiting system for GitHub's API stuff. I kind of wanted to close the loop on that and see if we had any questions, comments, concerns here, and what we needed to do to move things forward. If Timothy Sinclair shows up, he wanted to give a readout from Testing Commons, or maybe somebody else here will give a readout on Testing Commons. And then I had at least one thing related to our ongoing work on Proud to discuss. So Quinn, I will hand it over to you to start us off.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm putting on my GitHub employee hat now. I was approached internally by the GitHub API team. I think that's what they're called. It's not my team. But they would like to test a new rate limiting system, and the way that they're looking for specific users to test that out on. And because of the sheer volume that the Kubernetes CI robot handles, it would be a super great candidate. And basically what they would do is turn on a flag that sends parallel data to Splunk right now. That is all it would do. There wouldn't be actually any new rate limiting enabled. It's really just for research purposes at this point. There is a documented rollback process. And I do believe the doc, I tried to link, I thought I linked in the notes. Maybe I didn't, but let me know to fix that, has a contact email. This is Nick Van Wiggeren's team, and he's been helping out with a lot of GitHub API stuff when SIG testing and Prow has seen issues in the past. We shouldn't see any changes from the Kubernetes side. There shouldn't be, it should really not make a difference. If it does, there are we can take steps to have it changed back. But really we shouldn't see any difference. It's a very low risk, and it seems just a nice thing to agree to, that we don't have to even do anything for it.
Right, so that was gonna be my question. I feel like we got consensus on the mailing list. We wanna move forward. I opened an issue to signify that if something goes wrong, we got something we can link back to. Let's move forward. So I don't know what has to happen on your end to make that happen. I CC the appropriate individuals that were mentioned in the gist. I've assigned Eric and Cole, who have joined this call, as contacts on our end if there's anything we need to do. We listed Kate's CI robot as one thing, and I think Cole said maybe there's another thing we could identify. So I want us to funnel the discussion to that one issue.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that issue. I will link the people internally. It's Ruth and someone I don't know. Ruth is about to go on vacation. So,
right.
So you'll have an internal point of contact that is not Nick.
Okay. I assigned the issue to you, so at some point when you get a chance to sift through your GitHub notifications, it'll show up there.
I have complained internally about GitHub notifications as well, yes.
Okay. Anything else on GitHub API rate limiting? Okay.
Hey. I like that sound.
Much appreciated. Tim St. Clair is here. You wanted to talk to us for 5 minutes about testing commons.
I'm going to make it short and sweet. We have a couple of umbrella issues where we're tracking a lot of teasing apart of the test suite, primarily for dependency problems. I don't know if you actually do a depth graph of the end-to-end testing framework, but it's amazing. You find that one thing is connected to everything else. So we're teasing apart that primarily for the ability for people to vendor the framework. This is part of like the longstanding work items that we've had forever, around more specifically about getting certain things out of tree and enabling test apparatus for those facilities that move out of tree, namely cloud providers is the most prescient one. So Feda, if you have comments with reviews that you seem to get assigned randomly, feel free to poke us on the testing commons channel. There's reasons why we're doing everything.
I'm trying to take a look at reviews as well, and I feel like I've seen one umbrella issue that's like we want to break it apart, but it's unclear to me exactly what things are being broken apart and why. So like it was unclear whether or not the messaging was like, just break it up, and somebody was breaking things up into a package that didn't seem to be listed in the issue that talked about breaking things up.
The primary TLDR is that we have, if you look inside a framework, it has a number of files underscore util, right? And the underscore utils are being parceled off into a common directory structure, very analogous to everything else that's done in Kubernetes underneath package. So if you look at how like deployment utils or logging utils or all the other utils that we have, it has a common directory structure. And we're basically pushing that in underneath the subsection of framework and updating the imports so that way if a person imports framework, they don't import the like every single util because they might only need pieces of the framework. Right. So that is the plan of record, and that's kind of, it might be lost in the details of the umbrella issues, but there's two primary umbrella issues around this.
Okay.
And that's the effort for right now. It's low-hanging fruit.
Okay. I will take my questions over to the testing commons channel if it seems like things are being broken up like too granularly, or it's unclear to me like where they're being shuffled to. Because I'm under the impression you have a directory structure you intend to make, and so it's about populating that rather than like exploding everything into 100 pieces. and then it's broken up.
Yeah, but it's basically mimicking the exact implementation details of utils package, but instead of having framework be one massive monolith, it's broken up into similar structure, but underneath the framework. So that way a person imports the things they need.
The other question I had was there's a repo right now that belongs to Testing Commons that lives in Kubernetes SIGs, and I feel like I haven't seen or heard of any activity on that repo in a good bit. Is that being discussed or used at all?
It is not. I haven't heard from Hannes in a very long time.
Okay.
So I should follow up with him because he has not been around.
Okay, so that doesn't have anything to do with your efforts, because
that was originally meant to potentially be encompassing of it, but most of the effort was in the KK repository of what we wanted to do.
Right. I guess I'm trying to understand if your eventual goal is to extract the framework stuff into that repo or something else.
The long-term goal is to get framework into staging.
Okay.
That's long term at this stage.
I remember when staging was supposed to be the intermediary step to breaking things out. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that answers my questions. Does anybody else have any questions about Testing Commons? And just to remind folks who might be interested, who are watching this recording, where can they go to find out more about Testing Commons? When do you meet? That sort of stuff.
Bi-weekly on Fridays, early in the morning. I think it's 9:30 PTT, but it's in the community repo. The deets are all there.
Cool. Okay. So next up, I have something on the agenda where I feel like I've been carrying around this agenda item for a couple weeks now and still haven't had the time to go through and dig into what is it that we are doing with Prow and what are our long-term plans or roadmap for it. So I don't know if we wanted to go through that doc today and speak to that a little more. I could also walk us through what is currently in our 115 milestone, so we could talk about what we are planning on working on. Before those two things, I wanted to chat specifically about the concept of owning release blocking jobs. So I'll paste a link in chat. And yeah, sure, why not? I guess I can share my screen here. So conceptually, right now, I feel like the release team has felt this pain where like release blocking jobs, it's kind of unclear who owns what. So if I go take a look at the repo called SIG release, where all of the release related processes are defined, release blocking jobs are supposed to be open source. They're supposed to pass these metrics, and they are supposed to be owned by somebody. They are supposed to be owned by a SIG that is responsive. So in order to help us measure the responsive part, it would be helpful to know like when alerts are being sent out and like when they are being reacted to in some form or another. So it seems like a good way to represent that would be by using test grids functionality, where test grid can actually send out emails. So if I scroll down, I'll find the link here somewhere. I have an open issue about finding owners for all of the release blocking jobs. And SIG testing, I believe, should be the owner for some of these jobs. I plan to enforce this by, right now we have tests that munch the test grid configuration and make sure that like everything that has a Prow job also has an entry somewhere in test grid. I'd like us to enforce that everything that is in release blocking has an email address that it can send alerts to. So I don't know if I have anything that's really super visible here. Sorry, I'm doing this live. But conceptually, if I go to SIG release master blocking, I think there are a lot of jobs here where test cases belong to a lot of different people. So for example, This test, GC, cause master default, ends up running most of the end-to-end tests that aren't slow or flaky or relate to a special feature. They all have names like SIG storage, SIG network, whatever, so we know who it belongs to. But ultimately, like, a single entity should be responsible for making sure that this job is healthy and that the individual test cases are being addressed by the appropriate SIGs. Jobs like this, it seems really clear like that's already the responsibility of the CI signal role on the release team. And so I plan on making the release team own most of these jobs. That said, there are many jobs that I think fall more within the domain of SIG testing, like the verify job, which has a ton of these like scripts that are supposed to kind of lint and verify and check things. And I'd like for us to take at least the initial ownership of the job and then figure out ways to shard off to other entities if they own things. Like the conformance requirements verify job should probably be owned by SIG architecture because of the conformance definition working group. I would probably want the API machinery folks to own a number of things that relate to generation for API machinery. I also feel like we should own any job that has the word Bazel in it, so on and so forth. So as a result, I'd like for us to use a public Google group called Kubernetes SIG Testing Alerts, which I've described how I've set it up here, so that if any of the jobs that are owned by SIG testing fail, we send alerts to this Google group. And I feel like for now, the folks who go through our open source on-call rotation can subscribe to this. And as we move to a world where PROW runs in community-owned infrastructure, other people can also subscribe to these alerts and make sure they are kept up to date on when things break and why. Does any of this seem wildly controversial? Okay. I would have rather proposed all of this in written form. This just happened to come up today. So you'll see emails get sent out about this to the Kubernetes SIG testing mailing list and to the Kubernetes release mailing list and the Kubernetes dev. That's really all I had to say about that specifically. If you want, with our remaining 10 minutes, I can walk us through what's in the 115 milestone. I could also give us 10 minutes. Anybody else has anything they want to talk about with the 10 minutes? Or we could just get 10 minutes back. Okay, well, with that resounding set of opinions, I will be closing out the 114 milestone today. Anything that gets kicked over into 115, I or somebody else I know may be working on it. If it's not in a milestone, we're not working on it. And if you care deeply about that, please come reach out to us on SIG testing. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you all for your time. Look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.